Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mike and Beans. I'm Beans, and I'm with Mike and a special guest today, our good friend Hunter Lee. Hunter, just a little background: he attends Vanderbilt University, and he is a big soccer guy and a huge Ravens fan. And so we're gonna talk Euros today. We're talking soccer, which Michael and I, in all honesty, don't know much about, but Hunter does. So listen to Hunter on these tapes.
What's up,
But
guys?
we'll
It's great
also,
to be on with you.
yes. Well, thank you for joining us, Hunter. It's an honor. We will start though with talking about Julio Jones. Now, this week, Julio Jones was traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Tennessee Titans for a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick. Now, simple question to start here: do the Titans have the best offense in the league after making this move? Michael, we'll start with you.
God, no. There's a dude named Patrick Mahomes in the same conference. Yeah, I'll take Patrick Mahomes and his offense over anyone else's, and I'll do it very comfortably. Thank you kindly.
All right, quick and easy. Hunter, what about you?
Same answer. The Titans do not have the best offense. Obviously the Chiefs. I would say that the Ravens have a better offense. I think the Browns probably have a better offense. I do not believe in this Titans team. I also don't think they have a sustainable offense. Julio is a giant contract. I think they paid Henry a lot of money, which is just a bad decision. I think that I don't think their offense is anything special, but it's definitely above average in terms of league.
I think you have to not care about the money right now and kind of think about the now. The money doesn't really matter right now. Okay, you have Julio Jones, you have Derrick Henry, and you have A.J. Brown. That is three very, I think, elite players in the league. So, yes, I think I agree with you here that they're not better than the Chiefs offense, but I think they're kind of up there in one of the best offenses in the league.
Yeah, I think Hunter definitely oversold how bad they are and how little he is afraid of them, simply because I think the fears are leaping in deep, and he doesn't want to admit it, that he is actually scared of this Titans team and that they're going to beat the Ravens next time when they meet for the third straight year in the playoffs. I think he's just scared and doesn't want to admit it. But it doesn't matter, though, because the Washington football team are winning the Super Bowl this year.
That is
true. Do you want me to get into why the Ravens are going to crush the Titans again now, or do you want me to?
Absolutely. Do it now.
Yeah.
Now.
So, right. Wait, before apparently Hunter is not afraid of seeing the Titans again in the playoffs, where the Titans will have a revenge game and a little bit of beef from last year. So, Hunter, explain why you are not afraid whatsoever.
I simply couldn't be less scared. Their offense is still nothing special. Last season or last playoffs, we clamped Derrick Henry. We'll clamp Derrick Henry again. Marlon Humphrey is still a top 5 corner in the league. He's still going to clamp one of their receivers is playing better. And Marcus Peters is going to come back, probably get burnt for 1 touchdown, and then play well the rest of the game. I think that our defensive line is going to be even better. Our safeties are just going to be a year older, a year more experienced, playing even better. I think it'd be a really fun game, but they're not a team I'm scared of.
So do we come back to this when the Ravens miss the playoffs, or do we wait for that? Is that too low?
I mean, with 7 teams in the playoffs, I'd hope the Ravens can make it. I love us to win the division, actually. I don't understand how the Browns are favored over us. But I don't know. I think that if we play the Titans in the playoffs, I'd have a lot of confidence in us.
I have a small question here, but if the Titans had a different quarterback than Ryan Tannehill, maybe basically a better quarterback, would your stance on the Titans be a little different?
I actually think that Ryan Tannehill is not necessarily a bad quarterback. I think he's somewhere in between 8 and 15 in terms of quarterbacks in the league. I think I'd be terrified of any team with a top 5 quarterback and a good offensive line. But I think Tannehill he's not going to go out on the field and make special plays that win you a game, but he's going to lose you very few games. I think he's a very solid quarterback. That's my stance on him. Obviously, with a top 5 quarterback, I'd be terrified of them. But yeah.
I completely agree with Hunter's stance on Tannehill. I think everything he said there was completely correct. I think he is underselling this offense a bit, though, because you have a guy like Derrick Henry and that offensive line who they're beasts. It's going to be hard to cover A.J. Brown deep, and Julio doing Julio things. I think they're going to be really good offensively. I just don't think they're the best offense in the league. I think they're in that 5 to 7-ish area of like best offenses-ish. But their defense stinks. They can't stop anybody. I mean, you saw the Ravens just like Lamar Jackson, the worry about him was always if he gets down 10 or whatever. I think he got down 10 in that game, and then he was just like, all right, I'm going to play football now. And he makes one throw, and the Titans offense just folded after that. So I think the Titans offense is good, but their defense is a big worry for me.
Okay, interesting stuff, guys. So
I
we're
just
gonna
make one last point on the Titans before we move on.
Of course, Mr.
They have even this year they've lost offensive linemen. And I think that was the strength of their team. I think their offensive line has been spectacular for a couple years. And I think that Ryan Tannehill has really helped the run game a lot as well by actually being able to throw the ball where Mariota couldn't. But I think losing offensive linemen hurts. And I think that's the biggest reason I'd say I'm not as scared of the Titans is that I think that when you're paying and this is just in the now, when you're paying like Henry and your wide receivers so much money, you can't afford to have an elite offensive line, which is really important in the NFL.
Good point there. All right, well, we'll move on to soccer. The Euros are coming up. Now, they were canceled last year due to COVID, but they're back and ready to go for this year. So, Hunter, our soccer guy, what can you give us this year? Who are you picking?
Well, my favorite to win the tournament is probably France. I think they have the most complete team in the tournament. I think that N'Golo Kante, for the past 2 months, has been the best player in the world. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He was the man of the match in the Champions League quarterfinals, first and second leg, Champions League semifinals, first and second leg, and the Champions League finals. I think he is just an incredible player. And if France win, I think he will deserve a ton of credit, and he won't take it because he's actually an amazing guy. I think he's one of the best guys in soccer.
Humble.
He's a very humble guy. My second pick would probably be Belgium. I think that they've underperformed in some tournaments in the past, but I think they're really talented. I think they're strong in defense. They have a great center attacking mid in De Bruyne. I think Lukaku can really have a great tournament. He's probably my pick to be leading scorer. I think that's going to be a very interesting storyline to watch play out. But I think that Belgium is really a team that can go far in this tournament.
Okay, now England right now is favored to win the Euros, but you're not buying that. So explain why you don't think England will be successful in this tournament.
Well, I think part of this is that England does not have a big reason to be favored, except that England fans will bet on their team at any number. So if you put them at plus 400, you're going to get a similar amount of volume to plus 500. So why would you give plus 500? I think that's one of the reasons their odds are so low. I don't think it's great value. I think they're a good team. I think they can win, but I think that they really lack the strong midfield play that France has in Conte or Germany has in Kimmich. There's no one like that for England. And I mean, they just have so much talent at right back, and they're lacking talent in a lot of other places. But they are a scary team. They have Kane's a great striker, Sterling on the left, Foden at the 10. Can be a very successful team, but I would still say that I don't buy them as a favorite to win this tournament.
Okay. So, and final question about the Euros. What do you think, or which teams could, give us the biggest surprises throughout the tournament?
I think Poland is a big pick of mine. I think that they have a great strike force anchored by Lewandowski, who can really can put the team on his back. And I think that one of the things that happens a lot in soccer is teams can defend. If a team is willing to put the work in, they can all sit behind the ball and just kind of let the other team come onto them, spring on the counterattack, steal a goal. Maybe it goes 0-0. They steal one in extra time. They can try to win one in penalties. I think that can really happen for a lot of teams, but I think Poland is especially one of them because of how good their striker in Lewandowski is. I think they could be a big surprise to everyone.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for the real expert to take over here. I'm actually going to tell you things about soccer, and Hunter, you tell me that I'm right. So first of all, I pick Belgium every year for every single time one of these events happens, World Cup, whatever, because they always should have won it at some point. So I just hope they win it. I pick them every time. Hunter, tell me that they're going to win first of all. We do that, but afterwards, tell me how England is overconfident and they think they're better than everyone else, and it will be really exciting when they lose. Because some of the most fun I've had on the internet was watching England fans freak out after they lost to Iceland. And yeah, tell me those two things and tell me how smart I am.
Well, I think those are actually really good takes. I think that Belgium definitely they're one of the favorites for a reason. They're a great team. As I mentioned earlier, they were my number 2 pick to win. I think, they're a team I could definitely see lifting up the trophy. And then England is just, I think that sometimes, perception of English soccer can be a little bit high because of how competitive the Prem is. And they have a lot of really good players in the Prem. But they haven't won anything in a while. And there's a reason for that. And one of them is that there's so many foreign players that dominate in the Prem.
I mean, a World Cup semifinal is not too bad.
They haven't won anything though.
Okay.
They made the World Cup semifinal, and they lost to Croatia, I think.
Yeah, well, Croatia was pretty good that tournament.
That was Croatia's golden generation of soccer. So yeah, again, England are a team that can compete, but again, France are still there. Belgium are better than they were at that World Cup. Germany is still going to be a very good team. So I think that. I just think that, and they're coming in super overconfident, as Michael alluded to. I don't think they're as good as what the odds say. I don't think they're as good as their perception is. So that's just my take on it.
So it's funny how you mentioned the Croatia-England game. Croatia and England are in the same group this year. They're both in Group D, along with Scotland and the Czech Republic. Do you think Croatia can win that group? And if so, should I back the bandwagon of Croatia to win that group?
I mean, they can, because it's one game against England. If assuming that they take care of the worst teams in that group, but I wouldn't be super confident. I think Croatia is starting to get a little bit old. I think again that World Cup was like every one of their best players was in their prime. They were playing fantastic. 3 years later, I think it's a big decline. I think they'll be good. I think they should get out of the group. I think they can challenge in the knockout stages, and they can challenge England in the game. But I would still pick England to win that group.
Interesting. Well, Hunter, thank you so much for joining us. You did give us some very good knowledge. So if you plan on betting soccer, listen to this man. Please do. All right, Hunter, thank you for joining us. Now we're going to move on to UFC cards this weekend. Now, I'm going to admit I don't follow UFC a lot, so I don't really know what's happening this weekend, but Michael has the viewers on that. So, Mike, what do you got for us on UFC this weekend?
UFC 263 is this weekend, and we got some very fun fights, but I'm just going to talk about the 3 headliners, the 3 that people are showing up to watch. Let's start off. Marvin Vettori takes on Israel Adesanya. This fight is going to be fun. The build-up to this fight has been very fun because Vettori is the angriest man, I think, of all time. The Italian dream, I don't think I've seen him smile ever. And you have Izzy Adesanya, who is an absolutely bizarre dude. He's pretty likable. They did an interview with Michael Bisping, who was a very notorious hothead, and he was trying to be the mediator. That was absolutely hilarious. But let's get on to the actual fight itself. I thought they fought before. I think it was 2-3 years back. I thought Izzy won that first fight. I rewatched it. First round was kind of close, but I thought Izzy won it. Second round, Israel Adesanya just absolutely dominated. He picked Vettori apart in any way, shape, and form he wanted to. And Vettori did get that takedown and do a little, not much with it, but he had Izzy almost the entire round. So Vettori did win the third. I thought Izzy won 29-28. I see why there was a split, but I'm pretty confident Izzy won. As for this fight, though, Adesanya threw a ton of calf kicks in that first fight, and I expect there's going to be even more this fight. Vettori doesn't ever switch stances, and he takes a really traditional boxing approach in the stand-up. So the light kicks are always going to be there. Izzy tore up the leg of Paulo Costa, and he's going to do the exact same to Vettori here. And from wrestling, look, Vittori's best option is to get this fight to the ground as soon as possible. But since that first fight, Adesanya has really improved. He's improved his Brazilian jiu-jitsu and his grappling, and he's really improved his takedown defense. Derek Brunson, when he fought Derek Brunson, is possibly the best wrestler in this division, and Izzy stayed on his feet before absolutely just knocking him out. And competition, we got to mention this. Izzy faced Paulo Costa, number 2 ranked middleweight, Robert Whittaker, the number 1 ranked middleweight, and the guy who was offered the title fight right before Izzy, and Derek Brunson, who's ranked 4th. Versus Vettori to get here, Marvin Vettori faced Jack Hermanson, who's currently ranked number 6, and Kevin Holland, number 14. On the feet, Kevin Holland's really good on the feet, and I thought Holland won the striking exchanges, but Holland can't stop a takedown, and Marvin Vettori just took him down and just kept him there. Izzy's a much better striker than Kevin Holland, and he has much better takedown defense. So I think Izzy keeps this on the feet. It goes a lot like the Costa fight, and Izzy knocks him out. Now, the most important thing to mention about this fight is that they were doing like promo shoots or whatever, and Marvin Vettori put his pants on backwards. So that lets you know he's clearly shook, he's scared, and he's not winning this fight. Second fight, let's talk about it. Deiveson Figueiredo against Brandon Moreno. It was the fight of the year last year. That fight was amazing. Both guys took it on 21 days notice because they fought 21 days before, and my God, did it deliver. I mean, it was a close fight. It ended as a majority draw, which was it was awesome. And these guys, two excellent nicknames. You have Deiveson Deus Teixeira, the God of War, Figueiredo, and Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno. Elite nicknames. However, they also couldn't be much different. In the build-up, like UFC does this little vlog series, Figueiredo is talking about how much he hates Moreno and how Moreno disrespected him and how he's going to destroy Moreno as soon as he sees him and he wants to punch him. While Moreno's sitting back like, yo, you guys want to see my Lego collection? It's fucking sick. So these are two very different dudes. But as for the fight, I think it's very close. The fight was a draw last time because Figueiredo had a point taken away to multiple low blows, an eye cloak, and a fence grab. Dude, the dude's a cheater. Let's be real. He's breaking all the rules. Figueiredo could have multiple points taken away. These two guys put on an excellent fight. And in the end, I think Moreno's really durable. He's definitely the underdog. I think he's about a 2-1 underdog. And he took everything Figueiredo had to offer. And I thought he won that fight, frankly. Point taken away or not, I thought Moreno won 3-2 personally. But it ended up being a draw. You got to defeat the champ. You got to do really well to beat the champ. But Moreno's cast iron chin, and it's not going to be easy submitting him. If Figueiredo wants to win, he's going to have to really dominate these early rounds because he gasses quick. Figueiredo's had problem making weight, and when you have trouble cutting that weight, it's going to hurt you in those later rounds, those championship rounds. And I think Moreno's going to take over in the 4th and 5th. And if he can take one of the first 3 rounds, frankly, I think he can take it. Figueiredo's best chance to win is to knock him out quick. You got to put him away quick. He's got that power in his hands that you have never seen out of a flyweight. I think if Moreno takes him into deeper waters, he might be able to finish it. But in the end, I do think this fight goes to the distance. And I think it's very 50-50. So you know what? Life's more fun taking the underdog. I'm not confident in this fight. I'm going to watch it. I think this could be fight of the night. I think I'm going to lean Moreno here. And last and most certainly not least, first 5-round non-title, non-main event in UFC history, Nate Diaz, fan favorite, the man who had an excellent rivalry with Conor McGregor, including submitting him in the first fight on 11 days notice. That rivalry itself was awesome. And Nate's just a complete showman. He's an absolute beast. He's not afraid to fight anybody, and he's taking on possibly the toughest guy he can in Leon Edwards. Now, here's the thing. This fight's probably going 5 rounds. Nate is better as the fight goes on, and the dude will not stop for anything. Like, you can punch him all you want. He'll be bleeding all over. It's not going to stop him. But Leon Edwards also has no problem going 5. Nate Diaz does not look like a 170-pound fighter, and Leon Edwards is natural at 170. The only fight Nate had against a natural 170 was Masvidal, where he did get knocked out due to a doctor stoppage. Nate could have continued, frankly. He's just that guy, but the doctor's like, nah, you're done. You're bleeding too much, buddy. Diaz is very durable. I think he stays in this fight for a long time, but Leon has the advantage in striking and wrestling. And if Diaz can get it to the ground, I think he could submit him. I think that's Diaz's best path to win his submission. But I think Leon Diaz takes this. I think takes it very easily. There's a reason he's a 6-1 favorite right now. Nate Diaz is a cast iron chin, and everyone wants to bet on Nate Diaz because everyone loves Nate Diaz. But I think this fight goes the distance. I think Leon wins very comfortably. Leon's not going to submit him. The only issue is Does Leon knock him out or not? I don't think he does in the end. I'm not super confident on the method, but I'm confident enough to where I'd say I think over 50% of the time, Leon Edwards wins and Leon wins by decision. And now, all right, people tuned in for one thing, Bennett. Bennett, College World Series is coming up. Hit us. Tell us what you got.
World Series is not only coming up. Well, I mean, basically, it started last week. The regionals of college baseball started last week. And college baseball has been on the rise in popularity very recently. And in my opinion, it is one of the most fun things to watch. Now, I'm going to preview some of the super regionals here. So, in my opinion, the best super regional we have is Mississippi State versus Notre Dame. Why? Because they have probably the two of the best offenses in the country. They're flat out crazy in their regionals. Mississippi State struggled a little bit in their regional, but Notre Dame cruised past their regional. Why? Because they scored 50 runs in 3 games. Now that's crazy. Notre Dame was led by Nico Cavadas, who hit 5 home runs in 3 games. 5 home runs in 3 games. He went off. The Irish have not been too impressive over the past few years, but they're picking it up. Their program's getting a lot better, and they're very lethal, and they are a threat in this college World Series. But they have to go to Mississippi State, which is in Starkville, and they have probably one of the best college atmospheres in the country. So it's very hard to go to Mississippi State and get a win in the Super Regional. Now, Mississippi State is also, led offensive or. Also, Mississippi State is also big offensively. Tanner Allen leads their offense, and he may be one of the most offensively impressive players that I've watched personally. He's got power of the bat and has speed on the bases. Whenever he gets on base, he's a threat to score. Now, to our next regional, probably the biggest surprise is LSU making it to the Super Regional. Now, LSU had to go to Oregon, and they actually lost their first game. They lost to Gonzaga, so they had to win 3. They had to win their next 3 games in order to advance to Super Regional, and they did just that. They won on a walk-off in Game 2 against Central Connecticut State, I believe, and then they beat Oregon twice, and that's pretty hard because they were at Oregon's place and they beat them twice. So pretty impressive for them. Now they have to go to Tennessee, and Michael. It was all over SportsCenter, but Drew Gilbert hit a walk-off grand slam down 3 on Friday night in their Friday night game, and to beat Wright State. And it was one of the craziest things that I've watched, because the bat flip that occurred, their coach ran out of the dugout and ran around the field like he was one of the players or fans, and the crowd just went absolutely nuts. And it was, if I'm LSU right now, it is going to be hard to win 2 games in Knoxville. That crowd is going to be emotional, going to be really loud in Knoxville. So that's probably one of the most exciting super regionals we're going to see. Now, some may argue that USF, University of South Florida, is the biggest surprise so far. They were a 4 seed, and in each regional, they're ranked 1 through 4. So USF was the last seed, and they were 28-27 on the year, so they were one of the last teams to basically make it. But they made it. They beat my Gators in Game 1, but Florida choked so terribly throughout the regional. So they lost their first 2 games and they were out, but USF took advantage, and they ended up beating Miami and South Alabama to advance to the Super Regionals. But the one problem I see here with USF, yes, it might be a Cinderella story, but they have to go to Texas in Austin. And Texas probably has one of the best all-around teams in the country. Texas cruised in their regionals, so Texas is riding high right now, and I honestly don't see the Longhorns having, that big of a problem. Now, finally, you can't talk about college baseball without mentioning Arkansas right now. Arkansas has made, the past college, I'm not exactly sure the correct number, but they've made about either the last 3 or 4 College World Series. And this year they're led offensively. They can flat out rake everyone in their lineup, but the best player in this country, and definitely on the mound, is a guy named Kevin Kopps. Now, Kevin Kopps is a reliever. He does not start. But what Kevin Kopps does best, he comes into any situation and he gets out of it. And that's what's going to be pivotal in this series. Well, maybe not exactly, because Arkansas plays NC State. Now, NC State was a 2 seed in their regional. They went to Louisiana Tech. And Louisiana Tech, I think, was probably one of those teams on the borderline of being able to host or not. But NC State took care of their regional. You know, they won all 3 of their games, and they didn't really have a problem. But Arkansas was, in my opinion, is way too powerful. Arkansas starting pitching isn't, the best. They're very solid, but they're not very consistent. But if Kevin Kopps just pitches in 2 of the 3 games in the series, Arkansas will have no problem with NC State. So that's my College World Series preview.
All right, I've got some questions. I got it. Nah, I'm going to interrupt again. All right, Bennett, as a notorious Notre Dame hater, you said Notre Dame's in it and they have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Is Notre Dame actually going to win in this round? Because I do not want to see Notre Dame. I love Mike Bray and the basketball coach, but everything other than that of Notre Dame, I dislike. How far are they going to go? And more importantly, why do they lose?
I think it's very possible that they get out. They can beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State went 0-2 in the SEC tournament, and they lost by like 10+ runs in each game. So if Mississippi State has one of those weekends, then Notre Dame will get by there pretty easily. But I think Mississippi State really played differently, obviously, in their regional. They struggled a little bit. They had to go to a Game 7 with Campbell, I believe. But Notre Dame. I told you Notre Dame offensively is very impressive, and they didn't score 50 runs for no reason, Michael. They can flat out rake, and they can hit the hell out of the ball. So yes, it's very possible to Notre Dame for Notre Dame to come out of Starkville, but it's Mississippi State. They're hosting the Super Regional. Starkville is a very hard place to go and win. Now, Mississippi State hosted a regional in 2019, and they absolutely demolished Stanford. They dominated that whole series. Now, definitely different players, obviously, but the atmosphere plays a big key in college baseball because of this, momentum swings and all of that. But Mississippi State definitely has the talent to make a run. I believe they have a lefty starting pitcher, who's very impressive, but Mississippi State can swing it too. But that's why I thought this Super Regional would be the best series, just because of the offensive firepower.
So I'm putting you on the spot here. One, who do you think's winning Notre Dame, Mississippi State? You got to give me a prediction here. I'm not letting you coward out of it because I hate Notre Dame. I will take Mississippi State. You can take whatever side you want. And 2, if you had to pick one team that you think, as of right now, you can change this in the region, whatever, is going to win the whole thing, who do you got?
Okay, so for your first question, I'm going to take Mississippi State because Notre Dame does not have a lot of experience in the tournament right now. Mississippi State goes to the Super Regional about almost every year. So, they know what it's like to, have a chance to go to the College World Series. Notre Dame, not so much. And they have to go on the road to Starkville. Like I said, madhouse. So that's why I think Mississippi State pulls out the Super Regional. I hope it's in 3 games because, I hope it's in the 3rd game because, that make the series very interesting. Now, this is a tough question for the winner of it.
I put you on the spot.
Because it's very possible that Arkansas breaks through. They had a chance in 2018 against Oregon State. They dropped a pop-up in foul territory that would have won them. Next at bat, or next few pitches, the guy ties it with an RBI single. Next at bat, guy hits a 2-run go-ahead home run. Series is tied. Then they struggle against the Oregon State starting pitcher. They lose in the finals. Is this possibly Arkansas's year? Definitely. It is very possible. But the problem with the College World Series is that anything could happen. It's like in all sports, But, Vanderbilt have probably the best 2 pitchers, possibly the best 2 pitchers in the country. Starting pitchers, Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. Jack Leiter struggles with home run problems, but if Leiter is dealing, then he's tough to hit. But Kumar Rocker, I think, all around is very impressive. He's probably going to go number 1 in the MLB draft. So there, Vanderbilt's always a threat. But I think this Tennessee team is, is very, very good. Their offensively, they're very impressive. They can hit a lot of home runs. The thing about Tennessee is that their ballpark, in my opinion, plays a little short. They have a short right field, and that helped. They have a very low fence, and I think it's about 320. So, and when you're facing 90 miles an hour every night, and if you get a hold of the ball, line drive, it's out of there. So they hit a lot of home runs, and I'll give it to them. Their starting pitching is pretty good. Chad Dallas, I believe, is his name. That's their ace, and he was pretty good throughout the regular season. So yeah, and that's probably the 3 teams. A little biased, all SEC teams, but I really don't see a lot of these other non-SEC teams making a little run. So that's my take.
So there you have it. Mike and Bean's podcast have guaranteed that an SEC team will win the College World Series and that nothing else is physically possible. These are guarantees.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Michael, any last words to say before we sign off?
I got one big time shout out. I'd like to shout out Tom Izzo. And everyone's like, what? That's random. You didn't talk about college basketball. Why? Because he mentioned, of course, like a sane person, that when he retires, he will retire. He will not go out like Coach K. So shout out to him, and screw you, Coach K.
All right. Well, I'll give a little shout out. I'll go back, and I shouted JMU out on Saturday, their softball team, but JMU's most likely best player, most valuable player, Odisi Alexander, threw 1,000 plus pitches throughout the regional, super regional, and College World Series. She was amazing. A video that's really cool is, she was taken out in the last game, in their elimination game against Oklahoma. Unfortunately, JMU lost, but she got a standing ovation from everyone in the crowd, even Oklahoma fans. It was really cool to see. So shout out to her. She pitched one hell of a multiple games. 1,000 pitches?
Insane. Couldn't do that.
Crazy.
Well, Lesserman couldn't.
Mm-hmm. But that'll do it for this episode of Mike and Beans, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for joining us.
Peace.